Hey guys, this is Bonfrey from L World. You are watching FOE Advance. Thanks for joining today. What I wanted to discuss with so many events happening now on a regular basis with Inno, there are a few quests that we all, I think, face as really annoying type repetitive quests. And I wanted to explain some really bizarre nuances I have uncovered just playing the game so far. And some of those nuances benefit on browser, and some of them actually are a detriment on browser, just in terms of how many clicks you're doing and how fast you want to get things done. So I'm going to go over some quests I tend to fulfill on mobile for certain reasons, and then other ones I fulfill on browser. So I wanted to talk about that and exactly show you why and what these weird little hacky shortcuts are that I've just noticed in the game. And I don't know if these are oversights by Inno, especially the one with the roads I'm going to talk about, and happiness, or if it's just because of the way they've engineered the game. So there are 4 types of quests I want to address, the ones that piss me off the most in any event. So I know we have an event coming up for January 24, the animal event. That's great. It's going to be just like any other event in terms of, gain happiness, finish productions, gain population, etc. So the 4 quests types I wanted to address were adding happiness and some interesting things about that. Finish multiple productions, 5 minutes, 8 hours, whatever. And then obviously gain population, and then build, a production building from your age and your city, etc. So there's some nuances associated with each of these. I'm guessing some of you know these. I'm guessing some of you don't, because I've had discussions about not recurring quests, around event quests with other guild members. I mean, people that are in SAT who've been in this game for years, and some of them don't know about some of these things. So many do, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you something that is totally unique. It's just maybe you haven't come across it. So let's talk about happiness. Let's get right into it. So right now, when I see city reviews and things like that, or I look at other players' cities, even advanced players, in many cases their roads aren't upgraded to their current era. So in general, I run current era roads just because maybe I like the look, but generally it's because I'm doing road stuff related to quickly developing happiness. Okay. And what I do is I'll take whatever road I have. So right now, this road, again, this is to fulfill a happiness quest, to increase happiness. I'm going to show you another kind of hack as well on that, not having to do with roads. But let's go to roads. And right now, what I happen to have in my city is Titan Paths. Okay, so Titan Path right now is the highest level 1x1 road that I can have, based on where I'm at. So what I want to do, let's say I have to add, 10,000 happiness. I can go 1 down to the Jupiter Moon road, and I can build that, and it will add happiness. And I can just build it on top of my current road. Now here's some nuance related to browser versus mobile. For some reason, when I downgrade, so if I build a road that is a lower level than my current one, so when I build down, I can do 2 at a time on the browser without having to go back to click on the cobble walk again. I do 2 more. At least I don't have to delete the roads before I add them. But you see, as I lay these down, they're adding happiness, right? Okay. So if you move over to mobile, even if you're downgrading, you can actually just lay it out. You can say build, whatever, and then just, you click your first one, and then you can just drag it down and build the whole thing. Now, a lot of players think that feature is broken or crashes on mobile. It's Not really either. You have to be patient. So the longer the road that you lay down, so say I do a long section like this in one shot on mobile, it will delay. Like you literally have to sit there sometimes for 15 or 20 seconds before the game kind of does freeze, and then all of a sudden, boom, it'll just take effect. So I don't know what it is about the code that creates this delay in laying down roads on mobile. But what's nice is now when I want to go back here, so what I'll do is I just go back and forth. So if I'm upgrading my road, I can do the click drag, which is like dumb that they don't allow it on the downgrade. It's just really irritating to me. But essentially, to fulfill a happiness quest, I can just go back and forth and back and forth. Again, easier to do it on mobile, but there is a time delay. So that's, kind of a cool thing. The other thing I do is I'll go into the antiques dealer over time and I buy buildings that build their special buildings, and I'll pick them up usually for just coins that add happiness quick and fast, right? So I might pick up a classical garden pool, right? And that may not cost me any special, other than coins, and I can drop this down in 4 seconds and add 9900 happiness. The thing that's cool about dropping these buildings, or you just go say Face of Ancient, right? So let me demonstrate what I'm getting at here, because when you add happiness for a quest, you don't have to add it all. It's not where you have to do it at the same time. Okay, so you can just use one small space in your city, and as long as that building gets built, it adds the happiness, and it adds it stacks, right? So now I've added 2886 in happiness. I can go over here, I can delete the building, but it doesn't take that happiness away from my quest, right? So I can just keep rinse repeating. And of course, I sell these buildings. I don't waste a store building, ever on a happiness gain building, right? So I have these Face of Ancients from different eras and stuff, and I'll just throw these down if I feel like it to fulfill a quest. But the problem is in SAT, some of the happiness ads are like, 25,000 or something like that. It seems pretty high. So it's a bit of a pain. So sometimes I'll use larger buildings that fulfill happiness that, that I have on hand, right? There are some from previous eras and things like that. Sometimes if I'm really in a hurry and I'm really feeling lazy, I will throw down a special building that gives happiness, and then I'll store it. Again, so like a Fiore Village, have it in inventory. I get almost 30K on that, and in one action I can, get that quest done, but then I have to store the building. So depending on your store building, activity or, storage amount, you can decide on that. So that's the happiness one. Let's talk about the next one that is a hassle, and I'll talk about rushing supply productions or coin productions and which buildings I tend to move towards for that. So there are some keyboard shortcuts on browser that I want to talk about, and also the strategy around rushing or not rushing. So in the case of the sleigh builders, I don't mean to keep going to sleigh builders. They're just one of the multi-production buildings that I have. So in this case, let's say a quest comes up and I'm in the middle of a 24-hour build cycle. On a sleigh builder, I really don't want to interrupt that because I'm looking for goods. But if I have to, I will. But on rushes, the sleigh builder is only able to respond to what I would call the more pervasive rushes, which would be coin rush and supply rush for the first 3 time frames, 5, 15, and an hour. So, I don't tend to gravitate towards sleigh builders to fulfill those types of quests, but I have them if I need them. Okay, so in this case, I've been building out Jumping Pumpkins, which is great because this is a straight up, supply building that is going to give me all the options. So I wanted to show you a keyboard shortcut. There's a couple shortcuts. So say that I'm in the middle of, so I'm going to collect these real quick. And then I've got some other ones that aren't done yet, so I'm going to show you a shortcut method I use on the keyboard. So I'll click on the building and then hit X, and it kills the production. So I'm going to do that on all of these. Every building that I want to set up a new production time frame on, I'm going to do this. So go through these, and let's say it's, finish whatever, say this was the number of production buildings I needed to fulfill a time build quest. So I go over here and let's say it's 1 hour. Then I go to the keyboard, and on browser, each of these positions represents a number key on your keyboard. So 5 minutes is number 1, 15 minutes is number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say it's a 1 hour production. I will just hold the 3 button down, and every available building in that class of buildings will just, benefit from you just basically holding the 3 down in that case, or the 1 or the 2 or the 6 or whatever. So that's a real plus for me, just trying to save keystrokes and time and be time efficient in the game. And then obviously if it's a rush situation, I have to decide whether I want to use one of my inventory rushes or whether I just want to let it finish. So in the case of 1 hour, I'll go and look and see kind of what I have the most of, and then kind of decide the value of that rush. I mean, ones that I rush a lot would be like the 8 hour, 8 hour rush, because those tend, it seems like with Inno, those tend to show up towards the middle end of the event. And if I'm behind, I'll sometimes blow through those, with those rushes. But, obviously if it's a 1 hour, I only have 2 1 hour mass supply rushes. These seem to be really rare. I don't know why. I'll just stack, 2 30-minute rushes, just, hit this twice, and then it'll finish the 1 hour production. So that's another thing to be aware of if you weren't aware of it. So anyway, that's how I approach that. I mean, sometimes if you don't have a good supply, if you're building production buildings specifically during events to fulfill quests, then you may need to make room in the city. In some cases, I've had to store some of my larger buildings just so I can set up an area for other production buildings that I'll bring in just for the event. So in some cases, I could use blacksmiths because they're 2x2. But if you have to fulfill a quest for finishing a production from your current age or one below, then you can't use those blacksmiths, from the earlier ages. So anyway, we just have to kind of gauge that the best you can. But and then for a season, when I was in like OF, that was like one of the worst eras to fulfill these types of quests, because the production buildings in OF are just freaking huge. I mean, they're just ridiculously huge. And if you're having to finish like, I don't know, 15 8-hour productions or something, I mean, that's just a hell of a lot of real estate to tie up. So that can really be a hassle. And that's why I'm hoping for you other players out there, if you're in an era like OF or VF that has, actually VF did pretty good on shrinking building sizes. But anyway, if your era has big buildings, I'm trying to remember, I think CE has really big buildings too. But if you have some of these special buildings that are also production buildings, they're awesome, because if they're in your current era, you're already prepared for fulfilling multi-volume quests. So anyway, all right, moving on. So with gaining population, that one to me is always just a painful hassle. So the thing about this is, I keep a current era military building always in my city, and I typically will either put a rogue out if I need rogues, or I'll store it or delete it, because if I have a lot of rogue hideouts, that's fine or whatever. But because rogues are not really germane to this particular quest type, I'm just going to talk about your military buildings. So let's say that it says, the quest is to say add, 50,000 population. Okay. So in my case, the best way to get 50,000 is to build and delete two of this military base or something in its same class, right? So what I have to do is actually, burn coins and supplies to do this, but I'll go and delete my permafrost base, which will give me the first. So say again, I'm trying to fulfill 50,000, citizens or people, residents. Sell that, I gain 32,000, right? So then I build another one, and I do the same thing. Sorry, permafrost. So, that's kind of a expensive on this side of things, but by far it's the fastest way to add population, because if you do current era housing buildings, I mean, they can take hours to build, 8, 10, 12, 20 hours, whatever, just to add that amount of people to your city, and it's just a really inefficient way to do it. So if you don't mind blasting the coins and supplies, that is the fastest way to gain population. And of course, I don't like to run 2x2 roads ever, so I always try to find ways around that, of course, because my TRAS will collect off of a disconnected military building. That's that way any era, anywhere in the game. I mean, you could have 3 disconnected military buildings of different types, and the TRAS will still collect, a variety of those units, even though they're not connected. So that's really handy. And if you really get desperate for space, you can literally, delete a building. If you have enough supplies and coins, you can delete your military building in between collections of your TRAS. So when you collect once a day, you can just build one real quick, but then you can backfill it with other stuff, to fulfill quests or whatever on a temporary basis. So that's something I've done in the past when I've been really constrained on space. So that is pretty much it for population. Now we're going to move on to building certain buildings. So like build, 2 production buildings from your era in your city. Okay, great. Well, that means I've got to have room. I'm still stuck over here. Okay. So I need to have, in this case, I'm looking for the smallest production building I can build to fulfill this. But what's cool about this is these buildings, this quest, when it says build X amount of buildings, you don't have to wait for them to finish. You guys probably all know this. You don't have to wait for them to finish production, and they don't need to be connected to a road. So all I have to do is find enough space to drop down, these production buildings, which in my case is pretty much a 4x4 situation. So what I will tend to do is, move things around enough to find myself, 4x4. I'll throw down the building. Here I am messing everything up. But anyway, I'll make the space, throw it down, delete it right away, throw the next one down, and delete it right away. And that'll fulfill the quest. Again, didn't have to be connected to a road or anything like that. So that's the easiest, obviously, to deal with in most cases. But yeah, there is no reason to wait for that building to actually build itself. Now, conversely, in the case of adding happiness, if you do drop down a happiness building, you have to wait for that building to pop before it adds the happiness, but then you can delete it right away. So anyway, that's what I have for these shortcuts and for events. Hopefully you've picked out at least one cool thing you didn't know about from this. Generally, I use browser for all of these quests if I'm able to, but that road thing does go a little quicker on the mobile. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and please comment on any other shortcuts you know of that I didn't really hit on. I'm sure there's a number of them, but I just kind of wanted to talk about my top 4 that I really dislike, and we can go from there. So take care. Thanks for watching.